What's going on, guys? It's Josh Kirshner from the Dialed In Hunter. This is another episode of the Road to Bow Season. In the last episode, you watched me shoot broadheads out to distance. I left the range that day feeling super good, super confident, very, very psyched on my arrow and broadhead setup. It's flying accurately and consistently, which is exactly what I was looking for. So this episode here is really going to kind of be all about bow sights. I'm going to talk about like what I like out of a bow sight, and then ultimately we're going to get to comparing these two bow sights right here. These two bow sights right here are kind of what I've been flipping back and forth between, and I'm really like, over the past couple months, I've been kind of like, what's going to be my main squeeze sight? I don't have the answer to that yet. So this is honestly like more of a thinking out loud type of an episode, just kind of talking through the differences between these two bow sights. So before I get into what I look for in a bow sight, the sights that these are, this is the Black Gold Ascent Verdict. I've got a ton of experience with this sight right here. Years and years. It's been a good sight to me. And then this sight right here, this is from Axcel. This is their Accustat II. I just got this a couple months ago, and I've been really digging it. I've heard nothing but good things about Axcel bow sights. So I wanted to try one out. So this is where we are. What I look for in a bow sight. Me personally, I'm mainly a bow hunter, okay? Like I do a little bit of 3D shooting. That's really about it. I don't really take it much past that. Everything that I do, everything that's on my bow is set up in the name of bow hunting. The type of sight I always look for is a multi-pin sight. This is what I prefer, and more particularly, I prefer a 5-pin sight. The reason I like a multi-pin sight over a single pin sight is it really just all comes down to time. It's about quick thinking, it's saving time in the field. So having those multiple pins there, I know, okay, this is 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever, the configuration is. So I can make quick judgments on my sight on where I need to aim. Whereas with a single pin sight, you're taking range, you might need to dial, make adjustments before you can make a shot. I know there's ways to get around that, like some sites have, like one post with 3 different pins on it, and you can kind of figure out where those are and how to judge yardage in relation to each one of those pins. But for me, the most simplest way to do it is with a multi-pin sight, so that's what I've always gravitated towards. And to take it a step further, I like a multi-pin slider sight. The reason I like a slider, okay, is for a few reasons. A slider is going to let me practice way out to distance. I do like practicing out to 100 yards plus. I think it helps me with closer ranges, because if you can group in a pie plate at 100 yards, 40, 50, 60 yards, those soon turn into chip shots when compared to a 100-yard shot. So I really like having a slider. The other thing is, this is hunting. Hunting's not perfect. Things happen, okay? When you release an arrow at an animal, at least this is how I think, when I release an arrow at an animal, I want to make sure that I do everything in my power to make that animal go down as fast as possible. So if I shoot something at 40 yards and he runs out to 90 and gives me another shot, I'm going to take another shot at 90 yards. Okay, that's just me personally. Some people might disagree with me, and that's totally fine. But that's how I look at it. I feel like once you touch that animal, it's your responsibility to make sure that they have the quickest death possible. So that is why I like a multi-pin sight. Another thing I'm looking for in a bow sight is durability. It has to be durable. That's non-negotiable. I do a ton of backpack hunting, so my bow gets thrown around quite a bit, and I'm hard on my gear. So walking into the field not knowing if my bow sight's going to be able to handle what's ahead is not an option. I was on a backpack hunt one time with a good friend of mine. We were packing in, and he actually tripped and stumbled down into a wash. And when he did that, he dropped his bow, and the sight that was on his bow actually snapped off of the bow. So the mount, this part right here, that mounts to your riser, it just snapped. Unlike this, that one was plastic. Okay, so that can't happen. I can't have that in the back of my head. So it's got to be durable. Something else that is pretty standard on most bow sights these days is a third axis adjustment. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but it is worth mentioning. The bow sight that I use has to have a third axis adjustment. I hunt a lot of steep country, so having that third axis adjustment to make sure that when you're looking at your bubble on a steep uphill or downhill, that if that bubble's in the middle, then you're actually level. That's incredibly important to me. I've missed animals because of that in the past. So both of these sights have third axis adjustment. Micro adjust, I'm kind of like nor here nor there with that. Like, it's nice to have, but it's not a deal breaker for me if the sight doesn't have micro adjust. I will say the micro adjust has to be smooth. Okay, I've had sights in the past where the micro adjust, particularly for the pins, was kind of a pain in the butt to get to work right. And you're constantly like, I found myself constantly paranoid that I was going to strip a screw going through that whole process. So it's not a big deal to me. Micro adjust, no micro adjust on the pins. I do really like micro adjust on the windage and elevation adjustments. That is very, very cool. That makes things way easier when you're sighting in your bow. But after the fact, these things, man, you're really only using these micro adjust features one time, if that, unless you change up your arrow setup and you have a different weighted arrow and you need to completely reconfigure your whole sight. Once you set all this, you're good to go. So honestly, like, micro adjust is cool, but it's not like the end all be all for me. Another thing I'm looking for in a bow sight is a shorter bow sight. I don't like to run my sight way out far on a dovetail. I used to do that. After doing some experimenting with some arrows, though, I was running a heavier arrow at the time, and naturally with a heavier arrow, my arrow trajectory was steeper, so my pin gapping increased, right? That's what's going to happen. But because it was out farther, my pin gapping increased to the point where I almost ran out of room to adjust my pins to accommodate each yardage I wanted to hit. By bringing the sight in towards the riser, you will naturally decrease your pin gapping. This is not changing the arrow speed or anything like that. So if you take two identical setups, same bow, same arrow setup, they're shooting the same exact speed, everything, but you have one with a sight out farther and one with a sight in closer to the riser. The sight that's out farther, the pin gapping is going to be larger. They're going to be more separated on that, as opposed to the sight that's in closer. The pins are going to be closer together. So because I like to shoot a little bit longer range and I have to pin gap when I shoot odd yardages, so like 34 yards or 47 yards, like you're aiming in between your pins when you're shooting that. Doing that when the pins are super far apart, it is very, very difficult to be accurate at those odd yardages like that. Okay, so with the pins closer, it just makes it a lot easier to aim and hit those odd yardages more consistently. Okay, let's get into these bow sights right here. I've babbled enough about what I look for in a bow sight. I'm going to start with the black gold because I've got the most experience with this one, okay? So this is the black gold Ascent Verdict 5-pin, all right? Pretty sleek construction, very well made. The sight tape is paper with a, we just put like tape over that so it doesn't get wet or anything like that. Works out pretty well. Printed the sight tape off of Archer's Advantage. So this is a slider sight like I was mentioning. That's something I look for. You can tell that by the wheel right here. How it works is there's this little lever right here. You just turn that, loosen it, and then you would turn this wheel, and you can see the little indicator right here. You can see that that's going down, okay, and then go opposite for it to go up, right? So that's how you adjust for yardage with that. That is accounting for the bottom pin, okay? So right here on the top of the sight tape, it says 70 yards, so the indicator is set to 70 yards right there. That is what my bottom pin is set to 70 yards. So when I adjust the dial, whatever this indicator ends up at, that is what the bottom pin is going to be dialed for. Got a bubble on the bottom here. Obviously you can adjust that. I do like the white ring on the sight housing on this sight. You can get different colors for this. I like the white one. It stands out more in my sight picture. Pins have always been pretty good. They're not plastic. These are not micro adjust. This is not a micro adjust for pins or the elevation or windage. This is not a micro adjust sight. So you're doing everything the old-fashioned way by just kind of loosening the screw and moving it a little bit. Okay. I don't have a big problem with that. And this particular sight is set up to mount to the side of my riser. It's not a Picatinny setup. And of course it has third axis adjustment. It is, in my opinion, the simplest form of a multi-pin slider sight that is out there. I've had one thing happen in all the black gold sights I've had and the years I've been bow hunting. I've had one thing happen to a black gold sight that I had to get fixed, and I think it was the screw for the pin stripped. So my pin was just kind of like hanging there. Okay, so I just went into the pro shop, got that taken care of, and everything was fine. Other than that, I haven't had anything major happen. I've heard this thing right here, the dial of death, as Black Gold calls it. I've heard of this snapping off. I haven't had that issue personally. I've had probably 5 or 6 black golds that were all pretty similar with this dial here, and I have never had this break. So the reason I got this sight, all right, I have in the past called this the bow sight that won the West. Okay, I really love this sight because of how just simple it is. The reason I got it was because I had a Black Gold Pro in the past. It had micro adjust everything, and the micro adjust was nice, but man, it was kind of a pain in the butt to get to work right. And I know, like I've talked to other people and they had the same exact issues with it. Maybe it's something that we're all doing wrong, you know, maybe we're doing something wrong in terms of the operation, but it just wasn't that smooth, particularly with the micro adjust on the pins. The windage and elevation, that worked fine, but the micro adjust on the pins, that was something where I really felt like it could have been better. So I've got a ton of experience with this sight. I don't know how many hunts I've been on with a black gold. I don't know how many times I've been at full draw on an animal with a black gold. It's a great sight, and it's very well constructed. So as much as I like this sight, there's a few things about it that I don't really like. The first thing that pops out to me is the dial. This works, it absolutely works, but I've never had a black gold sight that was smooth operation from top to bottom on this dial. So right here, not bad, but now it's getting hard. Now it's like getting real hard to turn. I don't know why that is. But every sight that I've had from them has been like that. So, yeah, that's something that I'm not super into. And then this shell right here, This is a really nice touch. Outdoor, indoor, it works well, but over time, this thing will wear out and it will stop changing colors on you, okay? I've had them do that in the past, and then I've honestly forgot about it even working or not working. And then I would pick up a new black gold, and then I would quickly realize, oh, hey, that thing's changing colors. And my other one wasn't. So that is the other thing that I don't particularly like about this. Because if you do really pay attention to that, this is something that you're going to have to replace in the future. And I don't know if black gold will cover that under warranty or not. They might. But yeah, that's something else that I'm not super into. Let's talk about the Axcel. This is the Axcel Accustat II, okay? I did a ton of research on these sights. They came very highly recommended from a number of folks. Everything I read about them was great, and I decided I wanted to pull the trigger. The problem was, these were on back order for like 8 or 9 months, so getting my hands on one was not easy at all. Finally, I got notice that my pro shop was going to get them in stock. I was like, sign me up. I want to try one out. So here we are. From episode 1 to now, this is the main sight that I have been using. I have been on one hunt with it so far and have used it a ton at the range. So my experience with this sight so far is limited to only a few months, which is why I'm still a little bit on the fence with it, because it takes a while to build confidence in something, right? On paper, this thing is amazing, okay? Unlike the black gold, this one does have micro adjust, and it has micro adjust everything. Windage, elevation, pins. The pin micro adjust, the individual micro adjust for the pins on this is incredible. It is far and away better than any individual pin micro adjust sight I've ever used. So very, very stoked on that. The windage and elevation micro adjust is awesome. Works very well. Another thing I really liked about this is it has a metal sight tape. Okay, very, very cool, man. Something like that to me screamed durability. I've never had an issue with the sight tape on the black gold, this paper one. We just put tape over it. It's been fine, but in the past, I have seen people's sight tapes that were set up like that get a little bit of water in them, start to blur, and then you got to go get a new sight tape. So that was something that was intriguing to me about this. When you buy one of these, they give you a whole baggie of sight tapes for you to choose from to match up with the trajectory of your arrow. This originally comes with 2 indicators on it. I took off one of the indicators just because I'm just so used to using one indicator, so I didn't want to confuse myself. If you notice, the indicator is down on the sight tape. It's set on 7, which means that it's set to 70 yards, just like the black gold is. So whenever I dial, my bottom pin becomes my floater. Let's talk about the dial. This is one of my favorite things about this sight. The dial is incredibly smooth and fast. Okay, you are not going to turn this wheel 100 times to get that indicator down or up to where you need it to be. How it works, there's this little lock here. You just flip that over and then just turn the wheel. Look how easy that is. That's amazing. And look how much real estate that indicator is covering with how much I'm turning this. These are machined teeth, and that's what this is operating off of, okay? So it's very, very smooth and precise. You can dial yardage very fast with it. That was something that was really, really cool to me that stood out. Another thing that stood out to me that I thought was pretty cool, earlier I mentioned that I preferred a multi-pin sight. However, if I was going to get more into the 3D thing, I would prefer a single pin for that. And the reason why this is pretty cool for that is because this right here, this whole sight housing right here actually comes off. and you can install a single pin on it if you wanted to. Okay, so I kind of looked at that and I was like, man, if I ever did want to, use a single pin, for 3D shoots or anything like that, I could pop this off, pop a single pin on here, keep this all the same right here, and then pop this back on for hunting season, good to go, right? So, very, very cool sight, man. It's got a 0 stop right here, which I haven't set yet, but it's there. The sight does way more, honestly, than I need it to. And I've been happy with it so far. So, what am I concerned about, right? You're like, this thing sounds amazing. This sounds like the perfect sight, right? What am I concerned about? The thing that I've really been trying to weigh, and this is really the question of the day here, okay? Between these two sights. This one has everything and more that I'd ever want a sight to do. This one gets the job done, okay? It's been a solid sight for me. It's tried and true. I've got a lot of experience with it, which speaks volumes. Experience with gear speaks volumes. It builds confidence, right? I have confidence in this sight. The thing that I am unsure about with this sight right here, and people that have more experience than me with the Accels that I've told this to have said that I have nothing to worry about, but I can't help it. It's in the back of my mind. This thing has a ton of screws on it. A ton of stuff that could come loose, go wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like worried, a little bit worried about, bringing this into the backcountry, being 9 miles in somewhere, and then, something comes loose, and hopefully I can fix it on the spot. But if not, I have to go back to the truck. You know what I mean? Like that is something in the back of my mind. And maybe it's a little bit irrational, but you know what? Bow hunters are very irrational, okay? Because if something can go wrong, it usually goes wrong on a bow hunt. I'm a very positive guy. I like to think very positively, but man, the little things matter with archery hunting. So that's my one hang up with it. If you guys have experience with this sight, okay, either of them, drop it down below. I want to hear your experience with the Accel, with the black gold. Are my worries irrational with this thing, or am I going to be good to go? If I had to put money on it, I'd probably say I'm good to go, but I can't help but, go back and forth in my thoughts with this thing. Fantastic bow sight. This is a fantastic bow sight too. I got a lot of history with this thing, and I'm really hoping to build a lot of history with this as well. So my plan for the year is I'm going to run both of these sights, but one of them is going to be on my main bow, and the other one will be on a backup bow that I bring with me on hunts and stuff. So what I'm really trying to figure out here is what's going to be the main sight, what's going to be the main squeeze, right? So drop your thoughts down below. I want to hear your experience with either of these sights. If you've had anything go wrong, what you've had go right. Thank you so much for following along with the road to bow season. It has been really cool sharing all this with you. These are the things that I think about before bow season when I'm trying to get prepared, okay? So it's been awesome taking you guys along. If you liked the video, please hit thumbs up. If you like the channel, please hit subscribe. That helps me out. And until next time, I don't care what bow sight you shoot, drop it down below and tell me why. Thanks, guys.